lunch, where we were dealing with the transportation of the exhibits to Isipingo police station. Yes. And you were at a point where you said Colonel Jacobs went inside.
Yes.
And came back with Warrant Officer Perumal.
Yes.
All right. In your statement that is dealt with at paragraph 12 of the first file of the statement, can you go there?
Yes, I'm there, Chair.
Sorry, can we just clarify? You, at the end of paragraph 10, the very last sentence, and I just want to get a clarification from you. Paragraph 10, the very last sentence, you say, Lieutenant Colonel Jacob informed us that we should proceed to Isipingo SEPS. He requested members from ORS Harbour to assist us. And then in paragraph 11, you then say all the 27 bags were loaded onto the ORS marked vehicle. And then you say, on arrival at the police station, we parked the vehicles. Perumal was called. We started to offload the bags. And then you say we started placing exhibits on the ground and started counting. Who is doing the counting? Because it's a bit it's not clear to me where you say ORS was called to assist at the harbour, at the depot, and then you went with them, and then we then say we started counting. Who is doing the counting?
We offloaded the bags. We, DPCI members, we were doing the counting.
So ORS was not counting?
No, they were not counting.
They were not part of your counting?
They were observing while we offloaded the bags, and also when we started counting, they were there.
Okay. But they left before you finished?
I wouldn't say they left before we finished, but they were there when we were counting. I think they were also waiting for a 13 number.
Well, that's not what they say. You see, again, you and Colonel Jacob, in your statements, you say that. You say they were there and they were part of the counting. At some point in his evidence, he says, well, they observed, they were standing around. So there's that commonality in your statements. You both say that. But the ORS and Colonel Jacob did amend his position when we engaged him. The ORS people, in their statements, they say they got there, your bags were offloaded and they left to go and carry on with their job. So the waiting for the SAP 13 doesn't come into it, because they say it wasn't their operation. They were just a lift to you. They were not helping with your operation.
They assisted us in offloading the bags.
Yes.
When we started counting, they were still there,
yeah.
Chairperson.
And then now you say they waited for an SAP 13. You are making them part of the counting then. That's what it must mean, that they become part of that operation. And what I'm putting to you is Warrant Officer Govender and Mkize say, offloaded the bags and went on back to their job. And the issue I'm taking with you is you and Colonel Jacob say they were there in your statement. They were helping you with the counting, because that's what you're saying to us in the statement. We started counting. You said they were brought in to help, and then you then started counting. So you make them part of the counting. They clearly, in their statements, say the bags were offloaded and we left.
I don't agree with that, Chairperson. They were there when we were counting. One Officer Perumal was also there.
No, I'm not talking about Perumal. I'm talking about ORS.
Yes, they were there when we were counting.
You insist they were there?
I insist that they were there.
Even though Jacob did amend his position in his oral evidence, that he thinks they were there when you started, but yes, he agrees they did leave. They didn't stay on for the complete counting.
According to
insist.
I'm sorry to interject, Chair. According to my recollection, they were there up until we finished counting. Then they left.
Okay.
I might be mistaken, but according to my recollection, because it's been 5 years now, but I think they were there up until we finished.
Is not the explanation maybe also possibly that what you said earlier, that you discussed, you would discuss with Jacob as your superior about this operation, and maybe that's where this comes from, this commonality?
I wouldn't say that, Chair, but I'll be lying if I can say to you we never had a conversation with this discussion. We work on the same floor. Our offices are next to each other.
Yes.
But we did not discuss the statements.
You see, the other thing about it is Mpangase doesn't say that ORS assisted in the counting. So Mpangase, the two ORS people, they don't speak of them. In fact, the ORS people tell us what they did. And then Mpangase doesn't include them in the counting. It's you and Colonel Jacob who involved them in the counting. And in fact, in oral evidence, Colonel Jacob amended his position, which was initially like yours. And he said, yeah, maybe they were there. Yeah, actually, I think something to that effect. They were there when we started counting, and they, of course, left off to do their work. What concerns me is you go so far as to say that they waited for an SAP 13 as if now they were part of the operation, when in fact they were not.
Chair, they were there.
So were they part of the operation according to you?
If you contribute, you are part of the operation. You might not stay there the full time or the full duration of the operation. For the mere fact that they loaded the bags from CSC depot to SAPS's Pingo, they became part and parcel of the operation.
According to you. And so they must
They played
have
their role. They played their role.
I do apologize. So they must have a record. They must, if they've done things properly, there has to be a full accounting of their role in the operation, because they are part of an operation.
They must be able to explain their involvement.
No, I'm not asking about them being able to explain their involvement. I'm asking you about the records. We know you've got a pocketbook.
Yes.
We know entries. I think earlier you said to Commissioner Khumalo that in the office now there's a book where you write down what is the operation book or diary or something. I think you said that. Yes. So I'm asking that kind of question, that if they were part of an operation, they must have a record of their own, of their participation, what they saw, what they got involved with, what they did.
Yes, sir. Yes, Chair.
Okay. Maybe let me mention to you that Colonel Jacob, who was in charge of the scene, accepted that they were not part of the operation. He accepted that all that they did was to give you a lift, to give you the drugs a lift. So they provided you with transport to take, and that's what they were called for. That's what they say in their statements. That's what he says. They were called for that. They helped transport this consignment to Isipingo. He accepts that was their limited role. You put them as part of an operation, that to a point where you say they waited for the SAP 13, I think you say, yes. So there's that big difference. Apart from the fact that Mpangase does not mention them as part of his operation. He mentions you and Jacob and Duma. Doesn't mention them as part of an operation, including in the counting. You're the only one that is mentioning them as part of the operation, to the point of waiting for an SAP 13.
Okay, Chair, maybe let me remove the word say part of the operation, but they participated in the operation.
By giving the drugs a lift.
by conveying the drugs from the depot to the police station.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I just want to find out. So you're saying your version is that they didn't participate in the counting, or they did?
I'm still standing firm that they were there when we
Exhibit 244.
244.
Page 627.
Page 67.
627.
627.
Yes. Should be the second file.
Say for completeness and perhaps for completeness and to see the extent of their observations. He says, second last sentence, from my observations, each bag contained approximately 20 such bags, or from looking and estimating. I'm saying the last bit that I just said now because of the use of approximately. Because if he had actually seen the counting, he would say each bag contained. Anyway, please continue, Mr. Skakan.
Yes, so that's the, I think it makes the point. But the witness obviously is saying that's his version. When you were at the, on your paragraph 12 of your statement, you indicate that, or you state that Warrant Officer Perumal and Colonel Jacob had a discussion about the space, right? And in particular, you said Warrant Officer Perumal talking to Lieutenant Colonel Jacob, stating that they do not have space to store these drugs. I'm just interested in that, at that point. Now, were you able to hear clearly the discussion between the two of them such that you can be positive about this discussion?
Yes, Chair. Initially, when he came and saw the number of bags, he said, so much. Yo, I don't have space.
And that was in the presence of Jacobs, yourself, and Perumal, and everyone else, or?
Remember that he was working with Kenneth Jacob coming from, and we offloaded the bags now. When the drugs were taken out of the bags, he said, yo, so much, I don't have space.
That exclamation of "yo" sounds so African. But who is to say that he doesn't know? He doesn't know "yo," or even isiZulu for that matter.
It comes from the kingdom of the Zulus, Chair.
Sorry?
It comes from the kingdom of the Zulus.
I know. That's why I said the last. That's why I said the last bit, Colonel.
Yeah.
So you could hear him clearly saying that he didn't have space.
Didn't have space. I heard him clearly.
And what would be your version? What would be your position if Warrant Officer Perumal says such a discussion on engagement never took place?
Hey, I will say the man is a liar.
Okay.
Why will we call? Why will we call Kenneth Jacob, contact our commanders, informing them that we do not have space, whereas we are at the police station?
Okay. Can we go to that file we're busy with, CJC 243, still file 2?
File 2?
Yes.
CJC?
243.
Yes, I'm there.
Page 593.
593. 593. 593. Yes. Yes, I'm there.
page 593.
Yes.
At the bottom, at the bottom, towards the bottom, paragraph 4.
Yeah.
This is the statement from Perumal. He says, Colonel Jacob did not tell me that he wanted to store the exhibits in the station, SAPS 13 storeroom. Rather, he said they have a safe place where they will store them. And then he says, there was enough space at the station to accommodate the said exhibit. I did not implicitly indicate to Colonel Jacob that there was no space to store large amounts of drugs. If he was not satisfied by what he alleged I said to him, he could have approached the station commander and informed him his problems about the exhibits. He did not do that because his intention was not to store them at the station. What would be your comment on that version from Warrant Officer Perumal?
I think this paragraph is not speaking the truth. And I can tie this paragraph also with the issue of the bags. As a very experienced SAP 13 clerk, if he had bags, why did he allow the exhibit to be booked in without bags? Because once you are a custodian of the SAP 13, regardless of rank or what, you are in charge of the SAP 13. Then he accepts exhibits that are not put in the forensic bags.
We know they were not in bags and they were booked in. What is the point you're making? We know they were not. And you took them from there without them being in bags, and yet you had booked them into SAP. So I'm really asking a question to understand what is the point of your rhetorical question. If there were no SAP, if they were not bagged, why did he accept them? What is the point you're making?
I'm saying, as a person who's responsible for the SAP 13, why is he allowing the drugs to be entered in the 13 without forensic bags?
Are you saying he should have refused? Because they were not, maybe you don't understand what I'm saying, or what I'm trying to understand from you. We know these exhibits were not in bags on that day. You and Jacob, or whoever was in charge, did not bring bags. You did not phone around stations to say, can we get bags, which Jacob accepts. You didn't do. But you booked them in anyway without bags. So I'm trying to understand, are you criticizing him for allowing the booking in without bags, or are you saying you can't be saying the bags were there? That's why he accepted them to be booked, the exhibits to be booked in. I don't understand what is the meaning of your rhetorical question of why did he accept them if there were no bags?
Chair, I think Warrant Officer Perumal is not stating the truth that there was space at the station.
Do you know that there was no space? Did you know at the time? Let me ask you differently. On the 22nd of June, did you know that there was space in the police station?
I didn't know. I only heard Perumal saying that there is no space.
So why do you say he's not telling the truth when he says there was space if you didn't know as a fact on the 22nd that there was space?
Chair, he cannot say to us there is no space. Then he comes and writes an affidavit that there was space. That is why I'm saying I do not agree with this paragraph.
But you see, he says he was never asked by Jacob about space. He says there was never such a discussion about space. So read that paragraph in that context, that he says, no such discussion. I was never asked for space. And maybe before you answer further, let me mentioned to you that Colonel Jacob, like you in his statement, says there was a discussion about space. But when he testified, he said, yeah, it's quite possible that I'm mistaken. Actually, I was thinking about previous conversations, other busts, when there was an issue about space. Maybe I inferred, that's a language he also uses, that maybe something in that discussion with Perumal, I inferred that it means he doesn't have space, but yeah, actually, I don't remember expressly or explicitly is the language he uses, asking him for space.
Chair, I also did not say that Kenneth Jacobs asked Peruman about the space. I said Warrant Officer Peruman said he didn't have space.
Why would you say I don't have space if he wasn't asked
After
for space?
seeing the quantity of the drugs, Chairperson, he then says, oh, I don't have space. That is why I put this on my affidavit, because that's what I had.
Okay. You see, for me, the other curiosity is Mpangase doesn't say anything about that on such an important issue. You will agree it's an important issue because the national instruction does require you to do all of this at the police station, right, where the crime occurred. Now, the diary of Mpangase doesn't record such an important fact that would explain the anomaly and irregularity of taking these exhibits to Port Shepstone. How did they land in Port Shepstone? There's no record of that. It's you, and it's only you and Jacobs in the written statements who say this, but now it's only you because Colonel Jacob in his testimony ended up retracting his firm position and saying, actually, I don't remember explicitly asking him or having a discussion with him about space. So now it's just you who's insisting that there was a discussion about space.
Even on my previous statements, Chair, I've indicated the same. I'm still standing by it. I heard Warrant Officer Peruman saying he's got no space.
Can I show you, just follow up on Commissioner Baloyi's at page 648. That's where you find Colonel Jacob's statement where he expressly says that he did not engage Perumal as regards the issue of storage space. Page 648. At paragraph 6, do you see that?
Yes, I see it.
So you see he says he did not engage with Perumal as regards the issue of space.
Yes, Chairperson.
Yeah, so it's not a question of asking. He says there was no engagement. And then before I hand over to Advocate Skakani, because he was engaging you on Perumal's statement. Perumal's very first statement is on 647, so one page before where we were now. And at paragraph 2, Perumal says, on the 22nd of June 2021, I was approached by Colonel Jacobs from DPCI, who informed me that they recovered huge quantity of drugs from CHC containers in Prospecton, and they want to book it into our sub-13 register and sign for it and take it away.
Yes, I can see that.
So the intention all along was just to book it and sign and take it away. There was never an intention to store it at Isiping.
I wouldn't know what was the intention, but initially when Warrant Officer Perumal saw the drugs, he said those words that I'm saying. I've never, so much, I don't have space. I cannot retract from that, Chairperson. I had it and I placed it there.
It's quite curious that Jacob's first statement, he doesn't mention that Perumal said, I don't have space. It's quite curious.
I think for a change, Chairperson, it is good that myself and Jacob were saying different things, because all along we've been saying one and the same thing. Now I think this is good that he's saying something, I'm saying something.
The other thing about this is, on the point that Commissioner Khumalo is discussing, pointing out to you now about the Perumal saying they were going to sign in and out, is in fact, on other evidence that we have seen of the SAP 13, the exhibits are signed out for analysis, not because of space. He doesn't, whoever completed that SAP 13 doesn't say, because we have no space, we're taking it to storage. He says we're signing it out for analysis. That is not consistent with what you have in your statement and what you're insisting on here, that there was an intention to keep them there. There was never an intention to keep them there, and with further confirmation is the SAP 13 that signs it out. It's for analysis.
Chair, I did not view the SAP 13 while we were at Sipingo. I assume that Warren Officer Mpangase is a very seasoned SANAP investigator. So he would have made an SAP 13 entry that is correct.
No, the point that you may be missing, made to you, is it is not true that there was an intention ever to keep these exhibits at Isipingo. And what we are doing is showing you other evidence that points to that, and therefore that contradicts you. And the last one that Commissioner Khumalo has referred to Perumal and to Jacob, right? I've also done the same, referred you to Jacob and told you what Perumal said. The evidence leader has done the same. And the last thing in that stream of facts that have been established from the documents is the SAP 13, where a reason for taking out these exhibits is given as for analysis. So it was never the intention to keep them there. That's all we are pointing to you, that you are the lone voice in all of this. It wasn't your operation. Someone was in charge. You were to help. As matters stand now, in this minute, you are the only one that is saying that there was an intention to keep these specimens there, and they were not, these exhibits, and they were not kept because Perumal said, I don't have space.
Maybe I can agree with you, Chair, on that one, that maybe I wasn't aware of maybe a plan that you are saying of not keeping exhibit there. But according to me, when we were at the station, the intention was to store the exhibit.
That's what you thought. You thought.
I wouldn't. Yes, I thought the intention was to store exhibit at the police station.
Thank you.
All right, just lastly, and again, to be fair to you, Colonel Jacob's statement before the commission, he refers to his previous statements, and then he says, my members on the scene have since reminded me that Warrant Officer Perumal explicitly refused to keep the exhibits on the day, and that I should have been aware of the same. I hope to explain the reason for this discrepancy, confusion in due course. Now, you are the only member who seems to be aware of this discussion with Perumal. I take it from this statement then that it is you who reminded Colonel Jacobs of the conversation with Perumal.
He asked me about it. Then I told him, you can go back to my statements that were submitted in 2022. I heard Perumal saying he's got no storage.
So he asked you this before he came to the commission?
We were not even, I'm sure it was before we were even summoned to appear to the commission.
But when was it, more or less? You don't have to be specific in terms of date and month. You can say early this year or late last year.
It must be early this year.
early this year.
Yeah.
So he asked you, and then you said to him, yes, you had that discussion with Perumal. Perumal said they don't want
I
to
heard
keep the
Peruman
exhibit.
saying what? I heard Peruman saying he's got no space.
Yeah. So it is you who told Jacobs this early this year.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, I keep saying Jacobs. It's Jacob.
Jacob.
I apologize.
Okay.
Okay. So Jacob does not necessarily remember what he was discussing with Perumal, but you reminded him.
I'm not saying that he does not remember what he was discussing. I'm saying I heard Peruman saying he's got no space.
Okay. Now, in your statement, if you go to